What's up, everyone? I'm Selena Easter, and welcome to Lessons in Leadership, your favorite leadership podcast where we sit down with top-rated, world-class leaders to talk all things leadership and learning. This show is designed to give you a behind-the-scenes look into what makes these leaders tick and what it really takes to reach the top. From their successes to their failures, no stone gets left unturned. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss out. Let's get started. Welcome back to Lessons in Leadership. We have a new format today. So this is a new video format. We're trying it out and we hope you guys like it. Today's topic's all about health and fitness. So it's one of my favorite topics and I'm discussing it with one of my favorite people. Today I have with me Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma Regional Director, Brandon Sebald. Brandon, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Selena. I'm excited to be here again. I think this is the third or fourth podcast doing with you and it's more fun each time. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think I just need to make you a regular because every time we release a podcast with you on it, like the numbers go a lot higher than usual. So I think people they love to hear from you. You have such a cool background. I really respect like your daily routine, your commitment to health and fitness. I'm always interested to hear what you're doing from a health and fitness standpoint. For people that don't know that much about you, can you just quickly walk us through kind of your sports background, your fitness background before we get into some of the questions today?
Yeah, of course. So, I grew up, Selena and I were talking before, but I grew up in upstate New York, the beautiful area in the Catskills. So a lot of outdoor activity from mountain biking, hiking, etc. So I've always been an outdoor kid and got into sports in high school, played football, basketball, track, but really gravitated to football. I had four brothers. They all played football. The three ahead of me had, college scholarships to football. So my story was written a little bit, but I loved football and it was just, in my DNA. So pursued football, made it into college for football, got a scholarship, went to University of Miami in Florida. So I was there from 2001 to 2005. And, I majored in exercise science and finance. So that was when I didn't make it into the NFL, I had to make a decision, go back to New York where plan was, go to Wall Street and do the finance game, or pursue health and fitness, which was, again, really my passion. And I'm glad I obviously went down the health and fitness route of, I didn't want to be in an office, all day. Really, again, enjoyed training, which is what we're going to talk about, today, diet, nutrition, all that fun stuff. So I made the decision to go down that path. And I ended up specifically training professional athletes for 2 years down in South Florida. It was actually the place that I was training at, trying to get into the NFL. When I didn't, I was still training, and I was around the facility so much, the guy said, well, damn, you're here all the time. You want a job? So I was like, yeah, wouldn't be bad, getting paid for doing what I'm doing right now anyway. So ended up training Major League Baseball, football, boxing, any type of athlete. South Florida is kind of the place to be, nice year round. So did that for a period of time and then had an opportunity to get into Planet from a college buddy of mine from the Northeast who – long story short, was actually friends with CJ. I've noted on a prior podcast. So got into Planet that way, met CJ way back in the front end too. And I've been lucky to be a part of Planet for, 10 going on 11 years now.
Been killing it ever since, which is, yeah. I love to chat with you. I'm curious what your current diet looks like, because I know you're always doing something really interesting and different, and you're very regimented and disciplined. So I have so much respect for you. What are you eating right now? What does kind of your eating schedule look like?
Yeah, so a lot of people have probably heard of it. I think even CJ's doing it now. I heard on one of the recent podcasts. But intermittent fasting is a big thing right now, and I heard about it years ago, probably 5 years ago. A colleague of mine that was specifically into training professional athletes recommended a book called The Warrior Diet to me, which was, again, one of the pioneers in really talking about this type of diet. So I read that book and made a lot of sense to me. But at the time I was not eating for 20 hours, which is the Warrior Diet, 20 hours off, 4 hours of eating. I was like, the hell with that. I love eating too much. I'm not ready to do that. So, unfortunately at the time I didn't have the discipline to try it. I put the book back on the shelf. And then, fast forward some years to a year ago, my wife, after our third child, she was looking for something to get into. She's avid into exercise as well. But on a podcast, she heard a guest that was on the podcast was talking about intermittent fasting. So she got into it. We're seeing great results, but stubborn me, that wasn't enough to push me over quite yet. You know, Brad and Jay actually in North Carolina, they were doing it last year and telling me about it. I believe they were doing the 24-hour version several days a week. And they were seeing some good results at the time and recommended it. And still, stubborn me, didn't do it yet. But at our huddle, you know, last year, spent a lot of time with Lucas Irwin. And we all know how special he is. If you haven't heard his podcast that Selena did with him, you got to tune into that. He was just going into all the, you know, the positive ends of it. And he can talk, you know, very scientifically about it, the why it's good. He certainly convinced me, and I was like, all right, but so many people tell me, I've got to give it a shot. So I've been doing intermittent fasting for about 8 months now, and really happy with the results. I actually recently started adding in some 24-hour clips. So what I do is I started doing 16-8. You know, there's a number of different variations to intermittent fasting, but in essence, I have an 8-hour eating window. So for me, my 8-hour eating window is from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then the other hours, it's 16 hours of no eating. You can have, you know, fluids like water or black coffee, anything. There's a lot of stuff that can throw you out of your fast, but for me, it's water or black coffee that'll have, you know, outside my fasting time frame there. And again, it's been a great ride so far. I've seen a number of positive, you know, effects, you know, across the board. So I'm extremely happy doing that right now. With that though, you know, I stay very dialed in and focused Monday through Friday doing that. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I back off a little bit where I have breakfast. You know, was having a family, 3 kids, I end up doing breakfast with them, you know, pancakes, French toast, whatever it is. So I think, you know, as dialed in as you get, you still got to remember, again, why you're doing it. And spending time with my kids and doing that is a big thing for me. Plus, I'm a big believer in the concept of 80-20, if you've heard of that. Like, you know, you're 80% of the time, you're very disciplined and doing the right thing. And you leave that 20% window to, you know, enjoy life and indulge a bit on eating. But it's a small percentage compared to doing 80% of the time the right way.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And when you first started, were you like hungry? Were you like, man, my stomach's growling? How did you feel? Like, did it take a while to get, I guess, acclimated to that?
You know, I was actually nervous about that. Like, I thought it would be more challenging than it was. So the 16-8 is, in essence, you're skipping breakfast, right? And then you're not eating till roughly lunch, right? So there's a little bit of that. But, you know, during the week, it makes it a lot easier because you get up, you go, and you're at work then, right, for the first couple hours. So there's a little bit of it, like around 9 a.m. or depending on when you work out. Like, you know, I work out pretty early. So right at 5 a.m. So after I'll feel it a little bit, but you just power through that. It does get more difficult, you know, when you're doing 24-hour fasts. And I actually, so I'm a month in now, and you know, for 7 months I was doing the intermittent fasting with 16-8. Saw great results, but you know, there's the concept of plateauing, of where I just felt like I wanted to change it up. And again, this is something Lucas told me about a while back, of, you know, you'll get to a point you'll want to try something else. And I felt it. I was at that point. So I started implementing in 24-hour fast. And you can do any variety of 1 day a week, 2 days a week, whatever the case might be. But I started doing 2 to 3 days a week. I do Monday and Wednesday for sure, and sometimes into Friday. So as an example, Sunday I'll eat dinner, but then I won't eat again until Monday night. So it's a 24-hour fast, and it'll just be, again, water, coffee, or I've got my, for those watching on video, I've got my Jocko good tea right here that Caleb and Riley got me on, because, again, tea doesn't kick you out of your fast either. So, again, the 24-hour can be a bit more challenging. You know, once you hit your lunchtime and you're like, your body's telling you, or you're kind of feeling it like I should be eating something, you're used to it. I've already experienced that today, probably 20 or 30 minutes ago, and really just push right through that, and then you're fine really again until late afternoon. Maybe you feel a little bit, but a lot of it's just mental, right? Like a lot of stuff we're going to get into today is you just push through it, and really you get to experience like that, the energy kicks from not having to break down food, which is pretty cool, which takes a lot of energy. Just whatever you throw down the old gullet, your body has to break that down and spend a lot of energy and effort in breaking that down. So you can't overcome. Like, I thought it was going to be harder than it was.
Dude, I don't know if people realize, like, sometimes, like, when you work, even as a regional director, whatever it is, like, you have to do back-to-back meetings, which is mentally taxing. Is it hard to push through some of those meetings where you're like, I'm hungry, I have no energy, or do you feel that at any time?
Yeah, again, well, it's a silver lining on that one. If it actually makes it easier, because again, you feel it, but then you end up just pushing right through. And I think a lot of it too is just the mindset of, you just go into it knowing what you're going to do. So there's going to be that hurdle. Like, in our role, again, RD or your job, Selena, most of our jobs, GM, whatever we are, right now, all of us, front desk employee, there's going to be problems coming in the door, right? You got to get up each day just knowing that hurdle's going to come at you. And when you have that mindset of knowing problems are going to come, I'm going to make it past them, I think that handles a lot of it. So for me, I expect it coming each day. I've been through it before, So once you get a couple, notches on your belt, you already know you can do it. You've got that momentum, so you just push through it. And I think it's big too, just, why are you doing it, right? The why. So for me, it's just for health. I had a personal goal of leaning down to a degree. So when you have those goals, and you look at them on your goal, your vision board, whatever, on a daily basis and reaffirm it, it makes it a lot easier, especially when you start seeing results. Then you're like, that personal acknowledgement's coming back, like, oh, here's my payment back. I'm starting to realize these dividends here.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And I'm definitely interested in that. I've never tried it. But I think if I get bored with what I'm doing right now, I'll definitely give it a try, because I like to just push myself, and the thought of not eating for 24 hours sounds really hard. So I might have to do that. So
yeah, you got to give it a try, Selena. You're so driven. I mean, whenever we're traveling, you're always the first one I run into in the weight room. You're usually there before me. I pride myself in getting there early, and you're always heading out the door already. So tip of the cap to you there. But the cool part is, and you'll like this, and a lot of people, again, that are at that level of, it's a challenge. It's another challenge, right? It's that discipline, like, yeah, you are going to be hungry, and what are you going to do? So again, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face type thing. So you're certainly going to get punched in the face, but you just push through it. And it makes you feel better about yourself, right? Because again, you have the discipline to do that, making through it. It's not easy, but you get through it, and then it becomes, again, a habit the more you do it.
I love it. Yeah. I think it's like this, you almost feel like you're like a savage or something. You're like, wow, like I have such mental strength that I can literally deprive like my body of like, these, like a need or a want, so that's amazing.
Yeah. And actually, to jump in on that, I mean, we didn't really get into it, but the whole fasting concept, or like where you're talking about that water concept, I mean, the human body is still a couple thousand years old, right? Depending on where you're grabbing that from. But the hunter-gatherer type diet, right? Like, usually you didn't just have a refrigerator sitting in your cave, right, that you could go to every 5 minutes. You were traveling around, you were moving all day, and you were hunting something. You got whatever you were hunting, and then you would kind of pig out and eat for a period of time, right? So our bodies haven't quite evolved fully past all that yet. So it's definitely still ingrained in us to a degree, but it ties you back into those primal roots, where you certainly do feel that a little bit, which is pretty cool to feel.
Yeah, because you think maybe in like primal times, maybe they caught like a squirrel or a bird. It's like this tiny amount of food per day, So it's really interesting when you think of those terms. They were just moving a lot more, obviously, too. So yeah, I'll definitely have to give that a try.
Yeah.
That you also do is you work out 7 days a week, which is, I love that you do that. Some people, obviously take rest days. Maybe they work out a couple times a week, if that. Tell us about your fitness regimen. What are you doing from a fitness standpoint?
Yeah, so in terms of fitness regimen, as I noted earlier, kind of in the intro, being an athlete my whole life, so for 20 years already or more, it's just been a part of my life. So it's hard for me to remember a time where it wasn't a factor in it. But for me, I always enjoyed the element of exercising and working out, and the goal or getting progress towards getting better. So for me, that was always easy, and I did enjoy that part of it. So for me right now, again, 7 days a week, like you said, is, I believe you can, and again, our bodies, as we were just touching on before, you're meant to be moving around, being outside, seeing, greenery, things like that. I think that's important for the human body. But I think if you periodize and program your scheduling right in terms of fitness, you can 100% work out 7 days a week. I mean, in reality, we all should be doing some movement, 7 days a week. It's not just get up and go sit in your chair all day and then Netflix all night. That's certainly not healthy to do that. We know that for a fact. So me, 7 days a week, my routine right now is usually 4 days a week is strength. So doing strength training, and then roughly 3 days is cardio. Sometimes it swings, 4-3 the other direction. So when I'm doing cardio, it depends on the time of the year too. Like again, right now it's really nice outside, right? So I'm not going to be inside doing cardio. For me, I'm really big into cycling and then mountain biking as well. So I do those. Usually those are my 3 to 4 days a week right now. And again, weather's awesome. You can get outside and do those. And I live in Northwest Arkansas, so just blessed to be in an area where this is the home of Walmart, and we're the benefactors of the Walton boys are big into cycling. So when you have billions of dollars, you can build your own playground, and there are playgrounds in my backyard where just mountain bike trails everywhere, cycling greenway trails, and they keep on building them. So I have a lot of fun doing that. And then strength-wise, again, I have a weight room in my house that I use the other, 3 to 4 days a week. So that's, my current split right now.
That's awesome. For like your weightlifting, do you work your whole body? Do you pick certain muscle groups or maybe one muscle group? How do you, approach weightlifting from that perspective?
Yeah, good question. And again, from my background, just training athletes, there's a number of different programs, and kind of just starts with what your goal is. What are you trying to achieve? Is it hitting like PRs and certain numbers like personal records and, squat, deadlift, bench, whatever it is, or is it just generally fit and lean? So I kind of rotate through certain stuff during the year. Right now I'm kind of in like a bulking phase, getting into summer, sun's out, guns out type of thing there. So with that, I believe you have to periodize your scheduling. So I'll do like high rep movements, like 12 to 16 rep range. And I think it's important too, you got to do that over a period of time of you vary through what you're doing. So again, high rep range, 12 to 16, do that for 4 to 6 weeks, then 4 to 6 weeks of roughly 8 to 12 reps. And then you go down into like a true strength phase or heavier weights. You're adding weight as you go through this. So it's 4 to 8 reps, rep range and everything you're going through. And that helps just so you're avoiding plateauing. There's some other things you can do, but that certainly helps is how you progress through that right there. And then the split during the week is, I'll do, a upper day, a lower day, and then usually like a dynamic day that might have some speed elements in there. So upper, again, chest back. Again, I might rotate in an arm day in there. But it's definitely important to be aware of like, the programming you're on and how long. Because if you stay on a program for too long, it can get dangerous and, you can actually have injuries occur.
Just muscle imbalance, which I think sometimes people don't really, if they overwork their back or their chest, if it just needs to be so much balance involved and keeping track, even if you don't write it down, just like mentally, okay, I work this muscle and then you have to work like a counteracting muscle.
That's right. That's right.
Very good. And so you work out 7 days a week. Do you ever miss a day? And if you do, how do you feel, I guess, mentally, emotionally, psychologically?
Yeah. Awesome question. And like everybody else, I do miss days is the short answer there. So for me, it's usually like if I'm sick. Like, again, I noted before, and I'm literally like addicted and very passionate about working out. So getting up, and I'm also addicted to like my routine. So I get up 5 a.m, I meditate and I drink a cup of coffee, black coffee, again, with the fasting thing going on here. And that helps me get in the right state of mind. Again, the coffee's setting in, caffeine. And then I'll exercise and work out. And right now I only know this because, again, my app tracks it, but I use Headspace for my meditation app. And I'm at 82 days in a row right now, and tells me, I'd have to look back, but I was probably sick, 83 days ago. Because I really enjoy doing it. And if I don't exercise, I feel like almost like my head's like in a fog or slower, or just the synapses aren't connecting there. And, my wife can definitely feel it too. I might not be in the best attitude. She might want to kick me out of the doghouse. So I just know, learn my lesson. It's, I perform a lot better. I'm a lot happier when I get in my exercise and my meditation in the morning.
That's awesome. And let's say like you're not sick. Do you ever struggle with like your discipline, your motivation? And then if so, like how do you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you just get tired sometimes too. And even with what's going on in life, right? Like what's going on with us right now is going through COVID right now. There's a lot of the news. If you turn on the news, it's pretty easy to get into a negative slump, right? So there's days that I definitely wake up and it's challenging. But I think the more you do something, the more you're on a routine, you just automatically push right through that. So, I'm big into Jocko, Ed Mylett, Andy Frisella, and I think, and again, meditating, I can't stress enough how like the mental part of it has to be a factor in it, because that's what helps me push through those days, because they show up, they're like, you don't, your shoulder hurts or you're sore, like just go back to sleep, buddy, you can do it. That negative voice that's there. But you just have to push through that. Like even if, Jocko has a big thing on this is if it's going to be like a half workout or not a great workout, you're better off getting it in, get out of bed, put one foot in front of the other and just go, like the people that succumb to that, I'm not feeling it today, that adds up to 100 times a year, right? So even if you're pushing ahead, even if it's not the best workout in the world that day, you do that 100 times where you wouldn't have done it, that's compounded up to some pretty good work over the course of the year, right? But I think it all starts with just of being, again, mentally aware of that. Like I've been meditating now for 2 years. I think it's awesome. It helps me just be aware, the awareness of like what my mind is thinking. Again, like it'll tell me like, you don't want to work out today. But it's weird. You almost detach and you see it. Like you see you're thinking that, and I'm like, well, I know I can work out, so I'm going to do it. And I just get up and I go. So you're able to like disarm that negative thought, just press ahead. So I think that's how I successfully push through it. And I found, again, a routine that works for me. I would suggest, I think everybody's different. Things are going to work differently for other people. I know a lot of people that don't like meditating, but they do other type of just breathing exercises or like gratitude exercises. But I think, again, a mental component in it is super important, because you will get those days, to your point, Selena, those struggling days. It's how you push through. And the mind, is where it all starts. It's that little, I don't want to say a bad word on the podcast, but it starts with B and it ends with an H. That B voice on your shoulder that's going to tell you, that you don't want to do it. But you just got to not listen to that and power through it. And it all starts in the mind.
Powerful advice. And there was a word that you said that stuck out in my mind. You said compound. And my team and I were about to start this book. It's called The Compound Effect. And it's all about how like our decisions, they compound on top of one another. So for instance, let's say you're not eating the right foods, that's going to impact your energy level. And then that's going to make it even more difficult to wake up. Or let's say you stay up really late, that's going to impact your ability to wake up early the next day to like go work out. So I think to your point, it does start with the mind, and then where our mind is at, that affects one decision, which affects another decision, and all of our decisions like compound on each other. So I think that's really just awesome advice. And I think if people can get that piece right, like more and more items in their life will fall into place essentially.
Couldn't agree more. And that's an awesome book, by the way. We had that in our like local book club a while back. It's a solid one.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Very good. You also mentioned like fitness is so mental. How do you, which I agree, I think every aspect of it is mental, and especially if you want to really advance like your fitness or your health, like how do you push yourself in fitness, whether it's like trying to get a new PR, maybe, something with mileage on your bike, whatever it is, how do you push yourself?
Good question. Again, I think you nailed it 100%. It's mental. The meditation element helps. That's definitely there. But that can take a while to build up that foundation. So certainly stress that. But recently, over last year, there's another guy that I follow quite a bit outside of Andy and Ed Mylett and Jocko's, Bedros Killian. Not sure if you've heard of him.
I heard his name.
He started a company called Fit Body Boot Camp. So he's in the fitness industry. And then he's a special guy. But again, I read his book. Caleb and Riley, my arms, read it. And he has this concept of, again, that B voice that I was just talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
Word starts with B, ends with H, that one. It's when that voice is there. He just says a very simple thing. And I think in life, everything has to be simple. The more complex you make it, you're just adding in room for error, right? So why not keep it simple? So my simple answer to that is just what he does is he just has a phrase that he tells himself. And this guy, his phrase is man up. So whenever that's happening, it's just like his trigger. And like if anybody listens to Ed Mylett, it's like his triggers, he snaps his finger to himself and it just gets him going. It helps him like acknowledge what's going on. So for me, I was trying to find like what's my man up word, because something will attach to you. Everybody will have something different that just pushes you forward. And it's getting that positive self-talk, right? It's visualization. It's all that stuff. Like great athletes, they all have that. It's what are they telling themselves in their mind? So for me, I was like, what's my easy phrase? And for me, it's super easy. It's just let's go. Why? I don't know, but it's just that simple. Like when I'm biking, I tried to identify like what pushes me forward. And whenever I'm on a hill, a mountain or whatever, my brain like wanted to attach that word. So I just start telling myself, let's go. Super easy. Obviously, I mean, Bedros is his man up, and that's what helps him push through. But I think if you have that positive self-talk and just a phrase that you associate with, and it's also the more you do it, the more successful you are. So you just know it's going to help you push through it. So that's what
mine's don't be a little.
Yeah. And that's great if that works for you. I have an even simpler mind. I can only do 2 words. Mine is let's go.
That's good. I like that one too. Yeah. It's so important to coach yourself and like push yourself, like just mentally in your mind, like just positive self-talk. When you want to give up, you need to be your own like coach and friend,
Yeah. And a lot of times in life, there's not going to be somebody else there, right? It's Jeff, one of his first videos I remember he did with us and our team really loved it. It was, nobody's going to do it for you. You have to put in the work. You have to execute. When you're at the front desk alone by yourself, you have that tough case, customer come up. It's whatever you're going to tell yourself to get through that. So I think it's really important to have that, again, that phrase for yourself just to help push through.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. You slightly touched on this, but I wanted to see if you had any additional tips for people maybe that plateaued. I think you mentioned sort of changing like weights or weight amounts or even reps. What other tips do you have for someone that feels that they've plateaued? Because I think that I hear that like quite often. It's happened to me before.
Yeah, I think it can happen. It can happen to anybody. And again, I train pro athletes. So again, programming is such a big key of it, because you see a lot of people just go to the gym and they're just kind of working out is the term. Like working out is just going out there and exercising. That's awesome. But training is a different thing. Like when you're training for a specific goal, it's different and it's usually documented. So documentation helps a lot. And there's so many cool apps. And I'm getting old already. I used to pick up, Muscle Magazine and all the program was in there and you just rip it out and you do your notebook. So I think all that stuff helps of just looking to resources and changing up your exercises. Certainly, though, a simple rule of thumb is whatever you're doing, even right now, if you just change and adjust your rep ranges from high to mid to low and cycle back through. Because too many people they stay in that, it's called the hypertrophy phase, like the high rep where you're breaking down tissue. You can't do 16 reps every single day just breaking down tissue, because then you can't work out 7 days a week. You're breaking down your muscle and it'll never have a chance to heal. Then you start getting tendonitis, things like that, like tennis elbow, etc. So when you go through those phases, it lets the body heal, but it also gives it a different stimulus. So lower weight, high rep, and then you start going down, and then you end up in the 4 to 8 rep range. It's a higher weight. It's a totally different stimulus to the body. So that's a super easy one. It's just messing with your rep range. And again, you roughly are in there for 4 to 6 weeks on each rep range. But then you can do so many other things. It's just you change the exercise in terms of like making them functional. It could be a quad exercise. Instead of doing a walking lunge, it's like a step up, So changing the actual exercise, or it's, dynamic stuff, as people forget there's a couple different ways to train a muscle. It's, high rep range, it's speed. So dynamic, I noted, bands are a good one, or lightweight. So you do a movement really quick, really fast. That's a different stimulus to the muscle. So it's not, again, just doing the same movement pattern over time. The human body is awesome at adapting. Like The great thing about strength training is, again, you're forcing your body to adapt to take on a bigger load, right? So it'll adapt to that, and then you'll be able to do it. And if you never add any more weight, you're just always going to be right there, right? So you've plateaued. So what do? You add on weight, right? Other ways to adapt or get through those plateaus or train the muscle is, again, speed. So you go through a movement really fast. You do a squat really fast, a bench, whatever it is. Every exercise you can do it. Or bands in like elasticity training or chains. So there's a number of things you can do there. Or another one would be, other phase is time under tension. So the length of time that a muscle's under tension. So you think of a traditional bench press, you're going down, 2 count, probably back up, right? But say if you do an 8 count on the way down, so time under tension, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then pressing back up. So your muscle has a different stimulus. It's under tension for 8 seconds versus 2, right? You'll be able to do less weight, but you're going to feel that quite a bit different, And even, again, they call it the eccentric, concentric movement. You just change the amount of time that you're doing each one of them, and that's a totally different stimulus. So you just have to understand what you're doing. You're attacking a specific muscle group, and you just have to change the stimulus to that, because the odds are you've probably just been doing the same thing for a period of time, right? And your body's adapted to it and knows what it's going to do. Again, you take advantage of the stuff outside. Instead of doing cardio on a treadmill, again, you bike, run, walk, hike, etc., kayak. For me, it's very cyclical with the calendar too. When it's winter and I can't do some of that stuff outside, then I do Orange Theory Fitness. And for me, that's a totally different, cardio element. So people have, their different things that they'll do inside. So I think change is really the answer. Of throwing different change in a muscle group will help you push through that plateau.
Absolutely. Those are really awesome examples and powerful tips. And yeah, it's all about tricking your muscle, because to your point, like, your body is so great at adapting and it gets used to it. So you're not really challenging it or pushing it when you're doing the same thing over and over, or for an extended time. And even something so slightly of, like, say this is a weight, and just like the sort of direction that you're holding it when you're lifting it, like, that can trick your muscles. So those are really great tips. Yeah.
Another good one, obviously now we have to social distance, but I'm used to working out by myself. But if you have a workout buddy, they tend to challenge you in a different way as well. Maybe they're a little bit more advanced than you. That's the type of person you really want to pick, right? Is somebody that you're trying to catch up to, because it's going to push you to add on some additional weight or do some new things.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good tip too. Just especially if you're competitive, you want to win, or push.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's talk about fitness and nutrition mistakes. What are some of the most common fitness mistakes you hear, or maybe even whenever you were working more in kind of with training athletes? What are some just common mistakes that you hear often?
Yeah, I think, regarding that one, I think humans are just kind of, unfortunately right now, naturally impatient. So if they don't see results in like a day or a week, it's like, oh, this isn't for me, and I tried that. It ain't going to work. I think there has to be persistence and discipline to, push through and do it for a longer period of time. Like, whatever you choose you're going to do, give yourself 4 weeks, not 4 days. So it does take a bit of time to get it done. So I think that is people wrapping their heads around like a commitment. You're not just going to do this for a day, or even if you trip up, I think one of the big things is they might set a goal that's too lofty or too challenging. Say somebody that's totally inactive and not exercising at all of a sudden they're not going to go to 5 or 7 days a week, right? That's going to be hard to accomplish, right? The odds of their success are pretty small there. Or even dieting. You're not going to go from just no diet at all to like a perfectly clean diet, because you're going to get tripped up a little bit. And people, again, mentally, you got to go into that knowing there are going to be some hurdles, because people, they'll go into a program and the first time they slip up, they have a bad meal or a bad workout or miss a workout, then they'll just get down themselves and stop, and quit right away, pull the, that cord. You can't do that. You got to, again, commit to a period of time called 4 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is, where you're going to push through. You got to understand there's going to be a setback or two. That's just life, right? There's some uncontrollable things that might happen out there. And really just powering through in that sense would be the number one thing that I certainly see out there. So how do you get past that? Is you set achievable goals, right? Even if you're doing a 4-week plan, you have a weekly goal of, this week if I'm starting exercise, I'm going to go exercise twice this week. I'm going to go for a walk twice. And the diet end, it might be, I'm not going to eat any fast food or no soda. That's my goal this week. And again, hold yourself accountable. You get there. But even if you trip up, it's just still stay on. You got to know you push through it again. Then week 2, it's a little bit better. You add in a workout, but don't do too much too soon. There's a saying, you got to hunt some rabbits first instead of going right after the elk. Something that's easier to achieve. You get some momentum. You feel good about yourself versus just trying to hunt, CJ's elusive elk there, where it's a lot harder to do that, right? So give yourself smaller, goals that are achievable. Feel good about yourself. Get that momentum going. And again, commit to the longer term.
Yeah, that's a good example. I think that you do hear that often, or people do just overnight, hey, I want to be super ripped, and especially it's just unrealistic. Yeah. They have no current routine in place. So yeah, just setting more realistic expectations is a good start. What about kind of from your perspective, I guess the role diet versus actual fitness plays if someone wants to actually change their physical or physique? What's your perspective on percentage of importance of diet versus fitness?
Yeah, in terms of that one, I think actually almost in all of them, I think we understand nutrition and or diet is pretty 75 to 80% of it. I mean, exercise is key. I mean, you and everybody all know that. It's important for circulation, bone density, mental health. The benefits are enormous. But with that said, you could literally just change your diet and keep everything else the same, and you're gonna, lean down and see body composition changes. So somebody that, might not be eating as healthy, fast food a couple times a week, if they just get rid of the fast food, start eating healthier, imagine if they start doing, 16/8 intermittent fasting, they're going to see some pretty substantial gains. So it's certainly 75 to 80%, diet, nutrition, and then the other, 25% thereabouts is probably, the training. Obviously, if you're doing Mr. Olympia or something like that, it might skew a little bit more. But by and large, I would say that's kind of, the formula that is there. And, the fasting part just made me think there's a resource that I tend to refer to people. It's dofasting.com. So just dofasting.com is a great way for anybody that is thinking about it, because we've referenced it a lot here today. Is just go to that website. They talk about all the different kinds of fasting that there is, the benefits around it, and just some suggested dietary plans around it. So it's a pretty cool thing. If you're interested, just go check that out. It's a great resource to learn more about it. Maybe we could put in the show notes, Selena, just dofasting.com.
I love that. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. And I think that's kind of something I hear often, or people that want to get in shape or work out, that think working out, even if you're working out 1 hour a day, you just have to see that that's such a small percentage of your overall intake and your activity throughout the entire week. So I think to your point, diet plays such a huge role. In diet alone, you're able to change your physique. But yeah, the fitness element obviously will make you stronger, leaner, kind of just focus on your muscle group. So I think that's really good insights to share. And then, yeah, just a fun question. I was curious, your thoughts on carbs. I feel like carbohydrates, they get such a mixed, sort of branding, and people say they're good, people say they're bad. And I guess it's really dependent on kind of what you're wanting to do. But what are your thoughts on carbs, or incorporating them into the diet? Simple, complex carbs. There's so many different, types.
Yeah, I think everybody's body type too is different, and what macronutrients affect people's body types is big too. Again, training pro athletes that are they're trying to hit a specific goal, you figure out, again, you play with their diet of what affects them. So I think learning your body over time of, how do carbs affect you, is big. But my general rule for myself is I know I can't eat carbs all day long, because I'll just put on weight, body fat that's, that I don't want. So my general rule of thumb is in and or around workouts. So that tends to be when I'm having them, as if it's in, again, the sports drink that I'm drinking for in workout, or right after my smoothie that I'm doing it. And the later I get in the day, I don't need that carbohydrate as an energy source later in the day. So by dinner time, it's a protein, a lean protein, and like vegetables, would be, and not some type of starch or potato or something like that. So that's my thought, on carbohydrates. I think to your point, they do get attacked a little bit where, they're the devil. I mean, years ago, it used to be the same thing for fat, right? They would do like, you go to the grocery store and it was zero fat and all these things. But we know fats and carbs serve a purpose, and they have their healthy, elements in them. So they need to be in our diet. Just the timing of it, be smart. You don't eat, a loaf of bread right before bedtime, right? Something you don't want to do. Just the timing is important, and what it is important, the quality of it.
That's a great rule of thumb. Yeah, using them to like fuel your workouts because you know that you're going to be expending the most energy. And yeah, I think that's awesome. Very good. I was wondering, any favorite like superfoods that you like? I know you're into like nutrition quite a bit.
Yeah, a lot. Berries I love. Sweet potatoes I love. Avocados. Those are. I'm huge. We were talking about smoothies before. I noted them before. Like those tend to find their way into one of my smoothies. I mean, even sweet potatoes. I make a mean sweet potato pie smoothie if anybody's looking for a good recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those are awesome. I mean, berries, it's hard not, and they all taste awesome, right? The benefits, obviously, fiber, the health benefits of them of just fighting diseases off is undeniable. So they certainly should be a large part of everybody's diet.
And even people that don't like them, or maybe your palate's just not used to them, like fasting is a great way to sort of reset your body, and just if you're drinking a ton of water as well. And then just try different stuff. There's so many vegetables and fruits out there that maybe you haven't even explored or tried. So it's all about kind of experimenting with different textures and tastes to just get your palate used to healthier foods. And you get used to eating healthy over time. So if right now you don't like it, I wouldn't let that like prevent you from exploring it or trying different ones at least. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. And nowadays, like the supplement companies, a lot of them are getting cleaner, right? Like back in the day, Muscle Tech, like had probably every chemical in a bottle you could possibly have, some of it not good for your body. There's so many lines out there that are clean right now that have good stuff in there. And superfood specifically, like there'll just be a superfood supplement that if you are one of those people that really struggle in getting them in or don't eat that much in general, you can take one of their superfood supplements, and it might be a berry flavored one or something, but have it all in there, and they taste pretty darn good. So there's ways to still get those in.
Agreed. And it's just kind of back to the point of like your body adapting. Like if I'm eating like super clean for an extended period of time, if I eat something that's not clean, it just won't sit right with me. So I think your body will learn to adapt like either which way. If like you're used to eating unhealthy, that's the foods you're going to, be used to eating versus healthy. So those are really some great tips. Last thing that I was curious about is your workout content, like what you're taking in, like when you work out, if you listen to music, podcasts, watch the news, like what's your go-to?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, but you sparked one thought there on the eating. Fasting, again, I got to stress, go check out the dofasting.com, and I don't own stock in this company. I don't even know if they're publicly traded, but the point is on the fasting is it's cool because it teaches you your body like not to overeat as well. So, like say if you do a 24-hour fast, you actually can't just throw like trash. You couldn't have like KFC or something like that and throw it down because your body would be like, oh, what did you just eat? You would feel like gross. So you actually have to start with like bland stuff like berries or like a yogurt or something, which stuff pretty much that you should be eating. It's almost like your body's like telling you, like, to your point, that reset of this is like an okay item for you to eat, which is pretty neat. And I'd never experienced that before. I mean, I'd done like paleo diets and like reset stuff, but the fasting really tells you, like what bothers you or doesn't. And again, the benefits are insane. When you're on that window too, you sleep better, a number of benefits there. But back to your other fun question. So the content, yeah, I used to just be all music, but podcasts over the last few years, there's so much great content. So when I tend to be, out on a run, cycling or mountain biking, really more cycling or running, I'll do podcasts. So I'll be Ed Mylett, Andy Frisella. I like Tony Robbins quite a bit. And there's always some other ones that I rotate in there that I get recommended from Caleb Riley or others. GMs. I always ask them what they're listening to. But I end up kind of gravitating back towards those guys. But in terms of music, so if I'm mountain biking or weightlifting, I'm old school rock, like Metallica, Guns N' Roses, or some harder. I've been into it for probably 10 years now. If I'm doing like a really hard workout, some metal music, some stuff that'll really give you nightmares at night, Selena.
That's what I like that too when I work out. It'll push you and like motivate you.
Yeah, it can really push you. Like there's some great bands like Shadows Fall or FFDP, if anybody's heard of them. There's some awesome ones out there that will, drive you right through those workouts.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, those podcasts are great. I'm familiar with a lot of those, but we'll put those and some of the other content you mentioned in the notes as well. But I had so much fun talking to you and I learned a lot as well. And I'm going to have to check out dofasting.com. I might have to try this and let you know how it goes.
You will for sure. And I'll end it, on my side from throwing in 2 more cents into, I like to add in, a challenge element because if we all listen to this, that's great. But if you don't do anything, if you don't execute, it's in one ear out the other, right? So I would challenge everybody to, not if you're driving, but get home, you sit down and really just set a goal of, it's simple, just move more, eat less. So whatever you're doing, you could be Selena, badass working out every day, but whatever Selena doing, it's what's one more step further that to move more and eat less. Because really, again, we're all probably not moving enough and we're all probably eating too much, right? So pay attention to that little challenge there and don't just think about it right now as I'm talking about it, is write it down. Like, what are you going to do, right? Like if I'm working out 3 days a week, maybe the 3 days instead of 45 minutes, they're 50 minutes. It's as simple as that. Or maybe I'm going to add in a 4th, hike over the weekend with my better half or my kids or whatever it might be. So that's moving more and then eating better too. We can all eat better, right? Eat clean and throw in some of Selena's superfoods there. That'll help make you feel better. One of the things I learned from fasting is definitely don't eat within, 2 hours time frame of going to sleep. You'll sleep so much better. So for me, I'm stopping at 7 and I'm an old man. I'm in bed by 8 something to sleep by in between 9 and 10. But you fall asleep quicker, you sleep harder because your body's not working to digest stuff. So that is my challenge, just move more, eat less, but actually write it down and try to go after that for, say, a 4-week clip, take on the challenge. You're going to get into, if you follow through, you're going to feel better at the end of the day, period. And I think you're going to be a better person all around for it. And I think that's one of the goals here of this podcast, right, Selena, is to get better. So take some action here. I'd love to hear about your stories too. Feel free to reach out to me. Selena's always available. You guys have resources here to help you. But thank you, Selena, for everything you do. We really appreciate your podcast. I love the women in leadership one. I just listened to that one earlier in the week. So tune into that one, guys, if you haven't heard that one yet too.
Love it. Yeah. And I think just back to your point, it's just all about simplicity. It's in versus out when it comes to fitness. So calories is out. So, and yeah, just pushing everyone, just push yourself to be the best version of yourself. So Brandon, I can't thank you enough. It was so much fun today. I was highly looking forward to this topic and you're so knowledgeable. And I love your willingness and your commitment to your personal development and the way you share it with others. So thank you so much for being such a phenomenal leader for our company.
Of course. No, it's always a lot of fun. Me and you could talk about this stuff for days. Right?
All day, yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and I always enjoy it. So thank you for having me on, Selena.
Thanks, Brandon. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
If you enjoyed listening to this episode, be sure to subscribe on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you consume podcasts. You can be the first to know each and every time we post brand new content. Be sure to rate, review, and share. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope today's episode has brought you that much closer to your success. And don't forget to lead with passion and purpose in 2020.